All right, so today we're going to dive into something really fascinating, Turkey's soft power in the Balkans. Now, this isn't about armies or weapons. It's all about influence, about winning hearts and minds in a region that was, for centuries, the very heart of the Ottoman Empire.
So, to really get into this, we're leaning on some fantastic analysis from the Journal of Liberty and International Affairs. They've laid out this incredible roadmap of how Turkey is, well, re-engaging with a region it honestly never fully left.
And you've got to understand, these ties run deep. We're talking centuries. The Ottomans called this area Rumeli. Europeans, they often just called it European Turkey. And that shared history, well, it's the foundation for everything we're about to unpack.
Okay, so what is this soft power thing anyway? Think of it this way. It's not about forcing people to do what you want. It's about making your culture, your values, your policies so attractive that people want to align with you. It's influence through attraction, winning hearts and minds instead of winning battles.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a look back at the history. Then, we'll crack open Turkey's modern playbook to see who the main players are. After that, we'll dive into pop culture, and you won't believe how big a role that plays. Then, we'll get into the tricky stuff, the challenges and the criticisms. And we'll wrap up by looking ahead. What does the future hold for all this?
So, let's get into it. What's actually in Turkey's playbook? Well, you can bet this isn't just happening by accident. It's a really deliberate, coordinated strategy. And it's being carried out by a whole network of powerful, state-sponsored institutions, each with a very specific job to do.
First up, you've got TICA. That's the state's big development agency. And their work is super visible, right? They're on the ground providing real aid, and they're also restoring these incredible historical sites. Think of the famous Mostar Bridge in Bosnia. These become powerful symbols of a shared past and, they hope, a shared future.
And just look at the reach. It's massive. TICA has offices on the ground in 8, count them 8, Balkan countries. So this isn't some remote check writing. No, this is a long-term, boots-on-the-ground presence. It's all about building relationships and getting things done from right inside these communities.
All right, next up is the religious angle, and this is where the Diyanet comes in. This is Turkey's Presidency of Religious Affairs, and they are a major player. They've got a pretty hefty budget, and they use it to build and restore mosques, set up religious courses, and just generally maintain these really direct ties with the Muslim communities across the region.
And you're seeing a pattern here, right? Just like TICA, the Diyanet has built this deep network of offices all over the place. We're talking counseling and attaché offices that give them a direct line into communities in 7 different countries. It's all about embedding that influence right at the local level.
Okay, so after development and religion, the next pillar is education, shaping the next generation. You've got 2 main players here. First is the YTB, which hands out scholarships for Balkan students to come study in Turkey. And then you have the Mera Foundation. Now this one's really interesting. It was basically created with one urgent goal, after the 2016 coup attempt, to build a whole new school system to replace the one run by the Gulen movement, which Ankara now sees as a huge threat.
And to round out this institutional picture, you've got the purely cultural arm, the Yunus Emre Institute. The easiest way to think about it is like Turkey's version of the British Council or Germany's Goethe Institute. Their whole job is to promote Turkish language, art, and history, to make it accessible and appealing to everyday people.
Now check out the placement here. This is really smart. Notice how these centers aren't just in the capital cities. You see them in multiple cities in Bosnia, Albania, and Kosovo. That's a huge signal. It shows a commitment that goes way beyond just talking to the political elites. They're trying to reach people in major regional hubs too.
Okay, so we've talked about all these official state institutions. But maybe, just maybe, the most powerful form of Turkish soft power isn't found in a school or a mosque at all. It might just be what's glowing on TV screens in living rooms all across the Balkans every single night.
I'm talking about Turkish TV shows, or Dizzies. They are a massive cultural phenomenon. So why? Why are they so popular? Well, this quote from sociologist Hasan Jashari kind of nails it. He says it's about a shared cultural DNA. These shows, they picture this really appealing, modern, successful life, but it's still grounded in traditional family values. And that is something that just clicks. It resonates so deeply with people all over the Balkans.
And it's not just about dramas and soap operas. Turkey's making some serious strategic moves in the news media space too. You've got their state-run Anadolu agency pumping out news in local languages like Bosnian and Albanian. And just recently, their state broadcaster launched TRT Balkans. They are really trying to cement their media footprint.
You know, we saw this whole strategy in action, clear as day, during the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, think about it. The world is in crisis, everything is uncertain. And Turkey sends more than 350,000 protective masks just to the Western Balkans.
This was Medical Diplomacy 101, a really powerful display of soft power. You had Turkish military planes landing, delivering supplies to 6 different nations. It was tangible, it was highly publicized, and it sent a very clear message at a very critical time. We have the capacity to help, and we're here for you.
But of course, it's not all smooth sailing, not even close. This growing influence comes with a lot of friction. Turkey's push into the Balkans is hitting some really complicated realities, some serious political and diplomatic hurdles on the ground.
And maybe the biggest challenge of all goes back to that 2016 coup attempt. See, for years, this group called the Gulen movement, with all its schools and NGOs, was actually a key part of Turkey's soft power strategy. But then, the coup happened. Ankara blamed the movement, labeled them a terrorist organization, and started demanding that Balkan countries shut down all their institutions. Just like that, one of Turkey's biggest assets became a huge diplomatic problem.
So what you end up with is this huge divide in how people see all this. On one hand, Turkey says, hey, this is just cultural exchange, we're providing aid. But on the other hand, critics look at it and see something much more calculated. They call it a neo-Ottoman agenda. The idea that Turkey is trying to strategically rebuild its old sphere of influence across the former empire.
And finally, you just can't ignore the money, or the lack of it. Turkey's own economy has been struggling, and that directly threatens the funding for all these ambitious projects abroad. It doesn't matter how grand the design is. If the economy back home is weak, the whole soft power enterprise is at risk.
So all of this brings us to the big question, right? What does the future hold for Turkey's role in the Balkans? Is this influence actually sustainable? And where's this all going? Okay, so let's recap. What we're seeing is that Turkey is playing the long game here. It's using this really complex, multi-layered soft power strategy, everything from building bridges to broadcasting TV dramas. And yeah, it's all built on a very real, very deep shared history. But its success is anything but guaranteed. It's getting tangled up in modern politics and facing some pretty serious economic headwinds.
And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. As Turkey keeps pushing its cultural, religious, and economic influence in a place as complex as the Balkans, is this all going to act as a bridge? Is it going to bring people together and build goodwill? Or could it actually end up sharpening the very divisions it claims it's trying to heal? It's a huge question with no easy answer.